Well, a big story that came down this morning that we have been following: a major settlement reached in a lawsuit against Meta, where dozens of states accuse the social media giant, this is of course behind Facebook and Instagram, of knowingly designing and also deploying harmful features to really addict children and also teenagers. So we're talking about a lot of money here. The $17.1 billion settlement means that up to $307 million is for Minnesota alone. And so we wanted to talk about this more, and we're joined now by John Chandler, the University of St. Thomas professor of software engineering and data science. John, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so you also testified in this Meta trial. Let's start there. What were you called to testify about?
Yeah, so I testified in the cases back in the spring that people might have heard about, so in Los Angeles and New Mexico, and I was testifying as a marketing expert talking about how Meta makes its money and assesses the trade-off between profits and safety.
So these accusations made by the states are that Meta knew about these practices to then hook teenagers and children, which could then, of course, impact their mental health. But putting money aside for a second, Meta has agreed to adopt practices to keep young people safer on social media. I printed out a couple of them, what they say in this. So daily time limits, one of them, pauses for kids to try to limit some of their scrolling time, basically after 15 minutes of continuous use. Also some changes in the morning and the night, something called nighttime blocks as well, restricting children access from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. Why were they so hesitant? People might be asking, why did this take so long? Why were they hesitant to do this in the first place?
Yeah, so, maybe we can start with like the big picture, right? Like how Meta makes money. And so Meta is in the business of monetizing attention, right? So Meta is trying to attract users to Facebook and Instagram, and then they sell advertisers ads to reach those people on the platform. And so all of these safety features you're talking about are features that potentially could restrict how much money Meta could make. And so it's really encouraging hearing Meta agree to making some of these changes, which might impact their bottom line, but will also keep kids safer.
Yeah, and as you on the software engineering side of it, do you think that more needs to be done by some of these social media companies? I know Meta is asking that TikTok and YouTube follow some of these new practices put in place. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking at this through the lens of their business model, right? Like how they make money. And to me, the biggest thing is they are now taking into account this trade-off between safety and profits. Generally speaking, and this is just part of the public record documents that have been released, Meta's incentives have been to make as much money as possible, which means getting as many people on the platform, keeping them on for as long as possible, showing them as many ads as they can, and then charging as much as possible for those ads. And so now that they're making these trade-offs, I think that we are in a place where we can take all of the safety features that you talked about and then extend that also to additional features like having teen accounts private by default, or limiting notifications perhaps during school hours or something like that.
Yeah, from what you have seen and also heard from a marketing perspective, why are teenagers such an important audience for Meta to focus on?
Yeah, teenagers are important for a couple reasons. One big one is teenagers basically define what's cool in society, right? Every company, every brand is trying to attract more young people. They're the tastemakers. Also, the habits that we form when we're young, and particularly in relationship to companies, can persist into adulthood, right? So somebody who's using Instagram a lot as a teenager is likely to grow up to be somebody who uses Instagram a lot. And so these young users represent future adults that Meta can make money from across their whole lifetime with the platform.
And I know, John, we've been talking about, if you think about it, $17.1 billion, we're talking about a lot of money here within this settlement. When you think about maybe the business model moving forward, what do you think could be done? What else could be done here? Or is this it, at least a stepping stone?
Yeah, it's a stepping stone. There are a number of other cases. So I'm involved with legislation with legal cases related to school districts. So school districts have sued the social media platforms in an effort to recoup some of the costs they've spent working on teenage mental health. So I think that this is a step in the right direction. You know, it's important to contextualize this. $17.1 billion is a lot of money, right? And it's great that Meta has settled for this amount. But this also is a relatively small fraction of Meta's annual revenue. And so I think we are now moving into the place where Meta will start to take safety considerations into account as it evaluates features it currently has and thinks about new features.
Yeah, and John, as we're running out of time here, we have about a minute left. I'm just thinking about maybe some of the parents sitting at home right now watching this. What do you think they should know when it comes to, of course, not even just the settlement, but just social media use in general, especially when we talk about our kids?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, parents should be talking to kids about their social media use. I'm not an expert in child psychology. This wasn't my role in the case. But I got to listen to the testimony from Brooke Istuk, who works for the HEAT Initiative. You know, one thing she said is that in a technological arms race, parents are so far behind these companies. And so I think talking to your kids, building a bridge with them, and then hoping that the social media companies come along and help you out is probably where we are right now.
Yeah, and it makes sense for you to sit there, and you were part of listening to some of those stories too, because I feel like everyone can sort of relate, right? Especially those with kiddos at home, and when it comes to social media use, it's such a big deal right now, and it's all that we're talking about in high schools and middle schools, and you think about even, you know, people who have a phone right now who might be younger in age. So it's such a big conversation, and so we appreciate your time and just joining us to continue this conversation as well.
Yeah, it's really a pleasure to join you, and thanks so much for having me on.
All right, thank you, John.